shut up, you listen to my monkey mouth. There's a companion when you got pun on the canoa route. Hopped in a portal and got in a fight, Elias knocked him out. Bow, Naruto fighting style. Bow, UFC he tapped out. Bow, we win, we get crowned. Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for tuning in to this, the 10th iteration of Armchair MMA. This is Joshua, as always. We're going to be going over UFC 274 today. We're also going to take a quick look back at some of the fights that happened between UFC 273 and 274. We're also going to take a look forward at the fights that are going to happen between UFC 274 and 275, as well as a quick look at 275. But just to start, man, UFC 274 was a motherfucking banger of a card, y'all. Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira at the top of the fucking card was incredible. I mean, pure fireworks. It only lasted 3 minutes and 22 seconds, but they threw damn near as many strikes as Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza did in the co-main event in the whole fucking 25 minutes. So it was a super, super exciting 3.5 minutes fucking fight. There was some controversy, right? Charles Oliveira didn't make weight. Obviously, in championship fights, you have to be exactly spot on. Typically, there's a 1 pound allowance. So he could have typically weighed in at 256, or 156 rather, but with him being the champion and it being a championship fight, he had to be spot on at 155 or lower. According to him and several of the other fighters, the scale was off by about a half pound based on where they were at on their digital scales and what they were experiencing on the actual scale. Some people have tried to attribute that to Tony Ferguson jumping on the scale after he weighed in, knocking it out of whack, which I wouldn't put it past Tony Ferguson. But this isn't like a smart problem that we're experiencing, right? This isn't something that, if the commissions were smart, they'd still be dealing with, right? There's so much fucking money getting thrown around. There's no reason why these guys can't have an extra scale or two up there. You know, have 2 analogs and 2 digitals, and you can't fool that many scales. You know what I'm saying? If people are coming in and saying they feel like it's a little off, hop on the next scale. It's going to determine, right? Like, you're not going to pull 4 scales. 4 scales are going to be out of whack. And with that, you could kind of identify which one the oddball was. If one did manage to get knocked out of whack, you wouldn't use that one anymore. Just use the 3 that are measuring on point or whatever, right? So I don't understand. Dana White's literally a billionaire. There's literally billions of dollars getting thrown around in mixed martial arts right now. I don't see any reason why they are even fucking using analog scales to start, right? But if you want to, cool. But they should definitely have some type of authentication mechanism there on site so that this type of stuff doesn't happen. But that's the end of my rant on that, right? Because we're here to talk about fights, not necessarily surrounding drama so much. But, you know, honestly, man, I picked Justin Gaethje in this fight. I thought that Justin Gaethje was going to knock Do Bronx out. I thought that Justin Gaethje punched harder than anybody else that Do Bronx had fought yet, which is still probably true. But, you know, with me knowing that Do Bronx has been knocked down in like every fight leading up to this, I thought that Justin Gaethje was going to have more power than those guys who was knocking him down previous. I thought that instead of knocking him down, he'd knock him out. You know, I knew that Justin Gaethje is a little bit lacking in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu department, and Charles Oliveira is a powerhouse in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I could have probably forecasted that these situations could have come up, which I knew it was possible. But I didn't think Gaethje would go to the ground with him, which he didn't. He disengaged on the ground and got away. The thing that struck me is I didn't think that Charles Oliveira had the power in him to knock Justin Gaethje down. I mean, how many times have we seen Justin Gaethje actually get set on his ass? Like, fucking never, bro. Like, he's been finished on his feet. It's been always dogfights. I don't think that there's ever been anybody who's actually really knocked him the fuck down. And definitely no one who knocked him down and then hopped on top of him. You know, Khabib drug him to the ground, right? And Khabib did his grappling thing because he's a beast and that's what he does. But outside of that, I don't think that anybody's ever been able to do to Justin Gaethje what Charles Oliveira did. I don't necessarily know what's going to be next for either of these guys. I think that Charles Oliveira is going to, I mean, he said he's going to sit back and let the UFC do their matchmaking, right? He talked about all the times that he tried to call guys out and it didn't go anywhere for him, and so he's not going to play that game for anybody, right? No one ever reciprocated it whenever he was trying to call him out, so he's not going to let anybody call him out now, which is a fair position. I feel like it's probably got to be Islam Makhachev, right? Like, that's the dude right now who is, like, on actually a longer win streak than Oliveira. Oliveira has had, like, 10 wins in a row. And old Makhachev has gotten 11. So, you know, we're going to see how that fight plans out. I think that Makhachev probably wins, right? I hate to pick against Dubronx again, but Makhachev is that dude right now. He's got that, like, particular skill set, right? He's going to go and grapple and, like, just have an exploitative skill set that he's going to take advantage of. The way that he's done to everybody so far, I mean, the way he did Dan Hooker was pretty incredible. So lots of neato stuff to consider moving forward. For Justin Gaethje, I mean, let's take a look at these rankings, right? Let's see what's happening in lightweight real quick. So, I mean, Dustin Poirier's there, but I think that Dustin Poirier is going to wind up fighting Michael Chandler. Or, I mean, I don't know. This either the Conor McGregor's in the mix, too. Conor McGregor could come in and fight any of these guys, and it just be something that blows it out of the water, right? You know, a name like Beneil Dariush looks potentially juicy, right? Beneil's been winning, and Justin is coming off a loss, and, you know, gatekeep for the belt at this point, you know? So I think that could be fun. You know, Tony Ferguson just took a hard loss. Rafael Paziv at 11 is a really, really fun fighter. But yeah, I think, you know, we'll see what comes of it at the end of the day. I'm not the matchmakers. I mean, you know, if you're Sean Shelby, anybody with Justin Gaethje is going to be a win, right, in terms of the pocketbooks at the end of the day. So, you know, march that bell cow out and get your cash, however you want to play it. And then on to the co-main event, which was a head-scratcher, man. Yeah, head-scratcher. I mean, Joe and DC were, like, talking flat-ass out shit about this fight. Joe even, like, seemingly kind of gave Rose a little bit of a hard time during the interview about how, or not Rose, because Rose fucking lost, but Carla Esparza about it being kind of boring. And it was, bro. Like, man, I'm a purist. I love watching this shit, and you know, I can appreciate footwork and ring positioning and all the stuff that, you know, there's a lot that goes into this stuff, man, and it can be, you know, there's a sweet science, and if you can appreciate the sweet science, it's a lot easier to appreciate some of these style fights. And this one took it too far for me. I couldn't enjoy it. I mean, it put the style bender to sleep. Dana White talked openly about having been zoning out in the middle of the fight. I mean, it was wild. And Rose really felt like she won. You know, she only landed like 3 more significant strikes than Carla Esparza. And Carla Esparza is the one who got really all the takedowns throughout the fight, and was the one who had the octagon control. You know, like, it really came down to nothing more than, like, neither of them did anything significant in terms of damage. Neither of them did anything significant in terms of grappling or striking. You know, so it comes down to aggression and octagon control, fam. And, like, Carla Esparza, as the fighter who's marching forward, is going to be perceived as the more aggressive fighter. And with Carla Esparza holding the center of the octagon, is going to be regarded as the person who's owning the center of the octagon. And so if you don't do enough out of effective striking or grappling or aggression, it comes down to octagon control. And, you know, Carla Esparza controlled the octagon, won the fight, period. I'm ready to move on. You know, I joked with my buddies that I wasn't even going to fucking talk about this fight on the podcast. It bothered me so much that I was literally going to treat it as though it didn't exist. So, looking forward, I don't know. Hopefully it isn't as boring for either of them. I know that Dana has said that he isn't necessarily too interested in booking a rematch of them two, considering the way they performed. So, you know, Rose is probably at least a year out on her belt. She's going to have to go whoop someone's ass, and Carla's going to have to defend that belt. And fucking hopefully, if these two rematch in the future, it doesn't go the way it went. And so on to the actual co-main, which was Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson. Michael Chandler shocked the world. I don't think anybody was expecting Tony Ferguson to get fucking flatlined. which is exactly what happened. I mean, homie was flatlined. I've never in a million years would I have gambled that that's how that fight was going to go. You know, frankly, again, I had chosen Tony Ferguson. I thought that Michael Chandler was going to blow his wad trying to finish Tony while he was hurt, and it would wind up getting into the latter half of the fight, and he would be a little his gas tank could be potentially a little bit compromised, as it were. His gas tank could be potentially a little bit compromised, as it were, because he'd been chasing finishes with Tony Ferguson, and so I thought that he would wind up shooting for something, and Tony would wind up cinching up a Darce. That's what I had seen happening in my mind's eye. Was Chandler gassing, trying to finish Tony, and Tony catching him in a Darce whenever he shoots in for something sloppy. Proven wrong. Like, proven wrong in the most emphatic manner possible, man. Like, that field goal punt kick that he sent to Tony Ferguson was incredible, man. I mean, literally sent that man to space. Obviously no one's ever seen Tony Ferguson get his lights turned off like that, so it was a pretty extraordinary happening. Happened really early in the second round too, right? Like, they had a really great first round, they fought it out, and they like started to feel each other out, and then Michael Chandler just like threw a kick straight up the middle, and it put Tony Ferguson to sleep. Hit him right on the chin. The internet has not been kind to Tony Ferguson about this. I've seen where they've been making the memes with him and Frankie Edgar having gotten caught with the same kick, got him sitting like old men in the park. Pretty fucking brutal, man. The internet is not friendly to these guys whenever they start sliding, and I wish that wasn't necessarily the case. I know that Michael Chandler got on the microphone and called out a rematch for the winner of the championship fight, the main event. So I wouldn't be upset if I got to see Michael Chandler fight Do Bronx again. I know that Michael Chandler had Do Bronx hurt real bad. And so, it's a great fight. It's going to be a great fight if they do that again. But I know that he also put his name in the Conor McGregor hat, which Charles also did, right? So, I mean, if Charles is happy to defend his belt against Conor, I doubt that they would do that, right? I doubt that they would give him to Michael Chandler whenever there's a bigger opportunity that the champion's happy to make for the UFC in total. So, X's and O's, it would probably go to Do Bronx if Conor came back and wanted to fight, because it's going to be a bigger payday for the UFC. Is the long and short of it. Man, what's next for Tony Ferguson? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of guys who are on the come up in lightweight, and Tony Ferguson. I mean, Dana even said he's safe, right? This is a legend who is, only been taking losses to guys at the very tip of the spear, and like until he starts taking losses to guys who aren't necessarily as respectable, he's going to be safe. So I'm certain he's just going to wind up having an exciting matchup. It's very similar to the Justin Gaethje situation. It doesn't matter who you march that bell cow out there against. He's going to put on a fun show, and the UFC is going to make money, and the fans are going to be happy. So no complaints out of, the only thing that would piss me off is if they cut him, right? Like, if he fucking didn't stick around, I didn't get to see more Tony Ferguson fights, I'd be very upset. So that's the only thing to consider, Daddy Dana. There was a light heavyweight fight between Mauricio Rua, Shogun, and OSP, Ovens St. Preux. And Ovens is good, man. Like, don't take anything from that man. He's got a good jab, and he's got a good teep kick up the middle, and he controls the octagon with that. And like, if someone makes it past his jab and his teep kick, he'll fucking grapple you, man. Put you on your back. He's a big, strong guy. Played fucking like middle linebacker or some shit for the University of Tennessee. Like, not a guy to fuck with at the end of the day. He's got more Von Flue chokes than anybody in the UFC. Big, strong guy. Handled my man Alonzo Menafield pretty handedly. That one hurt. So, yeah. I had actually picked this one right. Go me. Finally, I got the main, co-main, and the co-main all wrong. So, fuck me, right? Good thing I wasn't gambling. There was a welterweight fight between Randy Brown and Chaos Williams. Great fight. Really fun fight. I was impressed with Chaos Williams's stamina. I thought that he would definitely... I thought that Rude Boy was going to kind of outclass him with the kickboxing and that Williams would get desperate and start winging crazy stuff, and he'd get tired. And he didn't. He actually was very disciplined in there and kept everything tight and looked really good. Looked really, really good. Yeah, both guys are great. Randy Brown's probably got to fight someone, maybe crack the top 15. That welterweight's a fucking shark pit, man. It's hard to say what exactly needs to happen over there. It's one of those situations where there's so much goddamn talent at welterweight that he's just got to start working his way up that ladder. I think he's probably earned an opportunity. I think this fight was like an eliminator to see who was going to get to go and be fighting in the top 15, or at least fighting for a spot to be in the top 15. Donald Cerrone and Joe Lozon was canceled. Donald Cerrone got sick, which made me sick, but luckily it's been rescheduled for the fight night in Austin, which I'm local to Austin, Texas. I'm going to be, it's actually June 22nd, and my birthday is June 20th, so it's like, I'm going to go there and hang out for my birthday. It's going to be a good time. If you see me out there getting fucked up, leave me alone. Yeah, let me enjoy myself. Francisco Trinaldo, how in the fuck this guy is still in such good shape at 43, I don't know. I can't hardly do 100 push-ups. And this guy is out here running circles around young men. So good on him for getting a 5-round decision win over Danny Roberts. There were several opportunities where I felt like he could have chased the finish and he didn't. Like he had him hurt and he would grapple. So there, it was a little bit lackluster in terms of the way the fight went. But a clear one-sided victory for Francisco Trinaldo, and it was a great performance, and I can't take anything away from the guy. Macy Chiasson won a 3-round decision over Norma Dumont. Brandon Royval got a first-round submission over Matthew Christopher Schnell, which is really fun. It's always fun to see Royval getting back in the W column. He's made a lot of fun memories in the UFC for me. Blagoy Ivanov got a 3-round decision over Marcos Rogero de Lima, which this was kind of a funky decision, man. I don't know. Seems like there were some pretty tremendous discrepancies on the way that the judges saw it. I wish that we could do something like what PFL does, where they shine the light on it, right? Like they are like showing you throughout the broadcast what the broadcast booth thinks. They also like have that smart ring metric system where it determines how well they think people are doing on the fly with like a metrics, like an algorithm. They also have the fans voting on stuff, and so like, man, there are situations where the smart ring thinks it's one way, and the announcers agree with it, and the fans agree with it, and 2 of the judges agree with it, and there's just like one guy who's a big time oddball. And they put that on Front Street, like they literally make graphics and put it on the screen so that everybody can see this is what everybody thought except this guy. And I think that's a really, really great way to maintain accountability, so that people can see it, like really, really see it out there in the open, because there was some funkiness on this one, that's for sure. But that's pretty much as far back as I'm going to go on 274, man. 274 was a great card. Great card. God, please give us more. Give us more just like that. So we're going to look back at the fights that happened between 273 and 274, which was the first set of fights that happened immediately after 273 was the UFC Fight Night Luque versus Muhammad. And Bilal Muhammad got him a 5-round decision over Vicente Luque. He's calling out for fights against Colby Covington. I'm not mad at the performance. I'm not mad at the call out. Good on Bilal Muhammad all around. Vicente Luque, keep grinding. He's a super savage. Guys are going to have skill sets that don't line up the way Bilal's did, and he's going to keep winning. Like, Vicente Luque is a really fun guy, and there's going to be nothing but fun fights for him. Nothing but fun fights for Vicente Luque moving forward. So, Shao Baralho, he's like the guy with the neck tattoo and the glasses from Brazil, and he's 11-1. Everybody's really, really high on him, and he... That's right. This is where they had like a technical decision, right? There was like some type of weirdness. It went to like the nearly 4 minutes in the 3rd round, and there was a foul that kept it from happening. And they just like went to the scorecards. And the booth was all up in arms. Like, how come they can do this here, but they can't do that in a championship fight? I don't know. I'm not the guys who make the rules, man. I know that they all looked at it, the guys who make the rules and the guys who are there to like make sure that the rules are followed through on, and they determined this was a fair play. I believe it was Dan Mergliotta who was doing the refereeing, and I'm never gonna disagree with Dan Mergliotta. That guy's like tip of the spear at this point. Now that Big John's out, and he's doing broadcasts over at Bellator, like Big Dan is like right there with like Herb Dean and Mark Goddard and like a very, very, very short list of premier referees. That's as far back as I'm going to go on that. So there was a UFC fight night, Lemos versus Andrade, and Jessica Andrade got the first round submission over Amanda Lemos, picked her up, dropped her, submitted her. Classic Jessica Andrade type of activity. I know that right now Jessica Andrade is actually calling for a fight with Cookie Monster, the winner of the UFC 274 co-main, who's now the champion over there in women's strawweight. So I think Jessica Andrade is absolutely a fun fight to make over there. I think there's a 0% chance that Jessica Andrade has a boring fight with Cookie Monster. She's going to walk right through her. I don't know who wins that. I think that Andrade's probably a little stronger. And maybe Cookie Monster is maybe a little bit more disciplined. So I don't really know. I know that I'm pulling for Jessica Andrade after the way that Carla Esparza, the way that the fight went most recently. Like, it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, let's go Cookie Monster. Let's fucking bore me to absolute death. So I'm probably going to be pulling for Jessica Andrade, and also it sets up a potential rematch between Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas, which, if anybody remembers, Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas already have some history. I believe Andrade picked her up and dropped her on her head and knocked her out, took the belt, and then Namajunas came back and beat her. But maybe I'm tripping on that, how that's all played out. I know that for sure Jessica Andrade picked Namajunas up and dropped her on her head, as Dominic Cruz was saying, you can't do that. She literally picked her up and dropped her on her head and won the fight in a way that Dominic Cruz said you couldn't. So I think that's fun. Dominic Cruz always feels like he knows what can and can't happen, and I love that he got proven wrong there. It's a little humility check for the fella. Nothing but respect for him. I love him in the booth. I actually really do sincerely like him in the booth. I love how technical he's able to be. I feel like as technical as DC is able to be with the grappling stuff in the booth, Dominic Cruz is able to be that technical with the striking and the footwork and stuff. So it's always really, really interesting whenever he's in the booth. But I'm not here to talk about Dominic Cruz. I'm here to talk about the fights. So Claudio Puelles submitted Clay Guida in the first round. Yeah, wow. I believe he choked him, I believe is how that went down. It's been a while since I saw the fight, but keep an eye out on Claudio Puelles, because Clay Guida's been in the game for a long time, and that fella knows how to defend chokes, and this fella got it. So good on him. Macy Barber got a 3-round decision over Montella De La Rosa. Good on her. It's nice to see her getting back in the win column. And that's as far back as I'm going to go on that card. We then had a UFC fight night, Font versus Vera. And Marlon Vera, my God, beat the fucking brakes off of Rob Font. I mean, wow. Like, wow, it was a good fight. Rob Font was a dog and was game the whole time. Like, don't act like Rob wasn't in that fight. But it's just when Marlon landed, he made that shit fucking matter, bro. Like, he was hitting him with some fucking ill intent on some elbows and some punches, and it was a pretty brutal beatdown when it came right down to it. Was really, really impressed that Rob Font was able to showcase his toughness in the way that he was. The fact that he was able to make it through that fight. I believe he was a replacement fighter. I think he was on a little short notice and stuff. So, like, maybe there's some leeway to give him. But at the end of the day, man, he definitely earned, like, a Boy Scout's toughness badge during this fight, man. No one can ever question the toughness of Rob Font ever again. Yeah, man's tough as nails. For Cheeto, sky's the limit, right? I think the last time he lost was to, like, Jose Aldo or some shit, like a fucking top talent. So I know that at this point, Sugar Sean is saying that Marlon's earned a rematch with him, but Sugar's fucking hallucinating, bro. Like, Marlon won that fight. Like, he might be a bigger ticket Like, you might move the needle more, but, like, bro, we know who's where on the totem pole in that matchup, period. We've seen it. It's been there and done that. So, yeah, I know that Sugar Sean said that he's undefeated in his mind. But out here, with the numbers that I'm looking at, he's not. Marlon Vera is the guy who dealt him that L. And did so in pretty emphatic fashion. So I'm excited to see those two fight again. I think they've both improved. And but I wouldn't mind letting it simmer and letting them build up a little bit more hype too, right? I'm all about letting the hype build. You got to let the beat build before it drops. Andrei Arlovsky got a 3-round decision over Jake Collier. The guy is like 100 and still out there fighting. It's pretty fucking incredible. Joe Anderson Brito got a TKO over Andre Fili in 40 seconds. It was crazy, super impressive. Never would have expected that out of Andre Touchy Fili's tough fucking feller. Was not expecting that fight to go that way at all. Grant Dawson, man, good on Grant Dawson in this fight. This fight made an impression on me. He got the submission in the last minute of the third round. And it was a tough fight for Grant. Make no mistake about it. And he nutted up and fought through it and got it done. And then my man Darren Elkins got the 3-round decision over Tristan Connolly. I'm always going to be a huge Darren Elkins fan. Darren the Damage. He literally worked as a union pipe fitter for years, a union sprinkler fitter. While he was fighting. Hell, he might even still be doing it on the low here and there, but I don't know. But I know that at the end of the day, he was a union sprinkler fitter, and my father was literally a union sprinkler fitter. So birds of feather flock together. Darren Elkins, gang, fuck off. You got a problem with it. Krzysztof Jocko got a 3-round decision over Gerald Meerschaert. Dude looked really good. He looked really good. Last time I saw him, I think he was getting choked out by Misha Serkinov, and so it was nice to see him bounce back and do well. Then we come up at 274 with all the drama. All the drama. Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza being boring as hell. Charles Oliveira winning after having been stripped of his belt. Michael Chandler knocking out Tony Ferguson. You already know. Crazy night of fights. That's what you expect these days, I guess. And so now, looking forward, we got a few set of fights between now and 275. We got Jan Blachowicz fighting Alexander Rakic, which is a fun fight. Wouldn't have expected to see Alexander fighting someone this high ranked right now, but I mean, go him. That's great. I think it's a fun fight. I think it's a very losable fight for Jan, because Jan is a little older and Alexander's on the come up. But fuck, man, I hate saying anything about age when Francisco Trinaldo's whipping boys' asses at 43. You know, tough deal. So hard to pick against Jan. It's a win. It's a losable fight for him. Is the truth of the matter. But if I had to pick, I'd probably pick Jan. Then we got Ryan Spann fighting Ion Cutelaba. Wow, what a fight! Eon's fucking crazy, and Ryan is a big, athletic, technical fella. So it's gonna be a smoke show whenever those two get together. Davey Grant and Louis Smolka. That'll be a fun fight. Caitlin Chukagian versus Amanda Ribas. That's a fun fight. Frank Camacho versus Manuel Torres. It's all fun fights, man. All real fun fights. UFC Holm versus Vieira. This is a fun fight. I'm a big fan of Ketlin Vieira. I really love it whenever people aren't necessarily the best strikers, but they're so good at their grappling that they can just throw caution to the wind, because if you go to the ground with them, you're in their world and you're now fucked. And there's something to be said for that, man. Like, if you can fight truly fearlessly because you don't need to worry about the worst case scenario, it enables you to strike more freely, right? And so she may be able to outstrike Holly Holm, considering that she doesn't really necessarily need to worry about the takedown from Holly, and the fact that Holly does need to worry about the takedown. But with that being said, Holly's done really good with grinding and putting girls against the cage here in recent fights. So we're going to see the two big girls going to fight it out. You got Eric Anders and Park Jung-young. That'll be a fun fight. Santiago Ponzinibbio and Michael Pereira. That's a really fun fight. It'll be, Michael Pereira is always a crazy fight. And Santiago Ponzinibbio is, he's like literally in the booth for the Spanish broadcast. He's very smart, very technical, knows when to throw an eye poke, right? Like, the guy is a vet. I'm a big fan. We got after that in June 4th, Alexander Volkov versus Jairzinho Rosenstruck. It's literally the only fight that they have listed on the card right now, but I'm certain they'll figure some stuff out between here and there, right? They got 600 people on the fucking roster. Everybody wants money. We'll get it built out. I gotta probably pick Alexander Volkov. They're both just like heavyweight technical kickboxers, and if it's coming right down to it, I feel like Alexander Volkov has the greater physical tools at his disposal, right? Jairzinho is probably got more power, right, considering that he literally hit what was his name, Alistair Overeem with like a hand grenade to the face and like blew his lip apart, and like it was in like the last 5 seconds of the fight. So the guy has big power, and it translates through an entire 25-minute fight. And we know that Alexander Volkov has been caught. I mean, he got caught by Derek Lewis in the last minute of their fight. And so Alexander Volkov's been caught in the last minute of his fights. Jairzinho's caught people in the last minute of his fights. It might be something to really keep an eye out for. But if I'm picking, I got to pick Alexander Volkov. And then we finally arrive at UFC 275. Glover Teixeira versus Yuri Prochazka. If Yuri doesn't win this fight, I'm going to lose my fucking mind, bro. What is up with all these old heads holding it down in MMA? Glover Teixeira is like a certified tyrannosaur, bro. I mean, they got footage of him being recorded on like old school VHS tapes, and this motherfucker's still out here fighting. Yuri's a little younger, kind of like the new blood, right? What he did to Dominic Reyes was fascinating. Man, shout out Dominic Reyes. He's such a great athlete. That was such a good fight. Yuri just had the edge, man. More tools, throwing elbows and stuff, man. More tools at his disposal. Not just a straight 1-2. Then we got Valentina Shevchenko versus Talia Santos, which Talia Santos is 19-1, right? She has fewer losses on her record than Valentina Shevchenko, but I mean, come on. 2 of those losses for Valentina Shevchenko came to the Lioness whenever the Lioness was like doing Lioness things. So you can't be too upset about that record. I mean, Valentina is that girl. I would be fucking mega shocked. I would be mega shocked if Santos pulled off the W. Like even more shocked than I was whenever Juliana Pena got the win over Amanda Nunes, because frankly, I've been hearing a bunch about how Amanda Nunes was like being stay-at-home dad and like wasn't at the gym as much as she needed to be, and like Pena was like so fucking hungry. You could see it. Obviously, I picked Amanda Nunes. Like, you never in a million years pick against the Lioness, but there was something in me that like deep down could kind of see it. Whereas Valentina Shevchenko, she ain't distracted. She ain't distracted at all, bro. The only thing that takes her away from training is shooting guns, and that's like low-key refining her skill set, even in the octagon still. So, fucking good luck dealing with Bullet. You got Zhang Wei Li and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Wow, how the fuck did I not realize this was coming up? They got these 2 girls rebooked. I could watch these girls fight every weekend. I swear to God, I watch these girls fight every weekend. Man, I still like can't get the image of the hematoba that Whaley put on Jędrzejczyk, man. It was such a scary looking injury, man. Like, I'd have thrown in the towel. That girl's so damn tough. And Wang Zhili has to fucking punch so fucking hard to be able to do that to another human being. It's really incredible. Oh man, and there was supposed to be Robert Whittaker and Marvin Vettori, but it got canceled. What happened there? Oh my God, I have to look into that and talk more shit about it as we get closer to it. But at any rate, gentlemen and ladies, Armchair Army, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. This is Joshua, as always. As I mentioned before, we covered everything from 273 to 275, with the primary focus being on 274, because that was what the most recent fight card was. Everybody, I really appreciate the good vibes. Y'all holler at me. Gang, gang.